He's very old school. He's all about, show up, be there early, work hard. He's big on manners. That's just the type of guy he is. But he's also that dude that, he can fly a plane. He can, ride a sports car. He can fix your car. He's just this old school kind of man's man who's just a movie making machine. Incredibly talented.
He doesn't age.
He does not age. But yeah, he's just that type of guy for me that I can call. I know I can honestly call at any time, and
really?
he'll make the time to talk to me about whatever.
Because it's another example of like people think they know an actor, or like, and if you throw Tom Cruise's name around in some circles, they're like, well, fuck that guy or whatever. But like I've talked to certain people that say he's very, and I was guilty of this. I was like, Tom Cruise is an asshole, right? Like that's what people say.
Yeah.
But I've talked to people that are in the industry, and they say he's meticulous. He's very.
I don't think you would find a single person who's ever worked with Tom that would have a bad word to say about him.
Right, but it shows you how.
And that's tough because you're not always, sometimes making these movies pretty high stakes, high pressure situations. People aren't always, their best selves, and there's a lot of ego. If there's anybody in this business who could have an ego, it would be Tom. Tom's going to go down as the biggest movie star of all time, and he has been since. You look at his run of. Risky business, like from Risky Business Top Gun, Risky Business, but Jerry Maguire in the first Mission Impossible movie came out the same year, 1996. The Color Money, Rain Man, Magnolia, Born on the 4th of July.
Who else have you worked with that you're like, this guy's an icon? I don't want to put words in your mouth, but working with Tom might be intimidating. Have you worked with another star that you're like?
Yeah, Tom's also very disarming. So when you meet him, he
makes sure.
Yeah, you just, even though you're talking to Tom Cruise, like he just has a way of just making everybody feel very comfortable.
How's working with those guys? Is it ever intimidating? Is there somebody you've worked with that you were like, fuck, I'm starstruck, or it's a little nerve wracking?
I think, definitely earlier on in my career, and there's not that you don't get starstruck, but you feel more comfortable in what you can do. But yeah, my first movie was opposite Nicole Kidman, and I literally went from being in college acting with only people my own age to 2 weeks after I graduated college doing a scene with Nicole.
Yeah.
And she's incredible. And Aaron Eckhart had this scene and he was yelling at me, and the director told him it was my first movie, so to just improv and just really kind of go at me. Mm-hmm. And he did, and I just remember sitting there thinking, this is so cool, because I had just seen him in The Dark Knight. He's playing Harvey Dent, Two-Face.
Amazing.
And Thank You for Smoking, all these things. Aaron's an incredible actor, so
yeah.
But yeah, Only the Brave. We had Josh Brolin, Jeff Bridges.
Oh, what's he like?
Who, Jeff?
Yeah.
Jeff's the man. He's what you would want him to be. He's what you think he is, and then some. He's the dude.
He is the dude.
Yeah.
So how do you personally get into role? Like, for instance, you've had to do a musician, and you had a music background. You had to do a boxer, right? Yeah. What's harder, doing a boxer or a musician, and what do you have to do to get into a role where there's some specialized angle to it?
Well, a lot of the time for me, I don't have a lot of prep necessarily for a movie. Mm-hmm. Oftentimes I can kind of strategically plan out, I want to do this movie at this point, and then I'm going to take a couple months off, and then I'm going to do this. But generally for me, whenever I felt like I needed to take a little time off is when something really great comes along, and what am I going to say? Like, I'm tired, give it to this next guy. So for Whiplash, I only had 2.5 weeks. I played drums in some rock bands in high school. I played piano growing up, played guitar, played saxophone a little bit. So music was something that I had a pretty good background in, but I had never played jazz. I never held this stick.
It's
that way.
Right?
I'd never gotten a percussion lesson in my life, so I had 2.5 weeks to figure that out. Playing Vinny Paz and Bleed for This, that was tough, just because I was in like funny friend shape is how I described it before that.
Yeah.
So I think when I got I did all my test results and shit, and I think. Yeah, the doctor was like, "Oh, you're 19% body fat." I was like,
"Not bad."
What? A fifth?
Not bad.
A fifth of my body?
It could be healthy fat.
This was not. This was whatever. Funny friend. I kind of rebelled again. I never wanted to be that dude who was like. There were a lot of actors I felt like that was their thing, right? They were in really great shape, and that was kind of I felt like that was why they were getting cast in certain things, and I wanted to make sure. I made sure you were not going to cast me based on my body.
Right.
So I went the opposite way.
So you and Jason Statham don't have the same food in the fridge?
No. I mean, does he? I don't know.
Does he have food in his fridge?
Does he have food in the fridge?
It's just water.
But then,
steak.
I think just a little maturity, as I start getting older, I realize, physicality for a role is can be a nice, it's certain characters should have a certain physicality.
Right.
So for that, I went from like 19% body fat, got down to 600. I was 19%, like 188 pounds. And then I got down to 168 pounds, 6%.
Jeez.
And that was like, yeah.
Do you feel
that was a lot?
Like it's not like The Machinist, but I mean, like what about method acting and that whole thing? What's the craziest method acting story you've heard? What do you think about that whole thing?
I think there's a lot of guys, because acting is all point of view. It's all perspective. So somebody could give us both the same scene, and we're going to interpret it two totally different ways based on your experiences in life and how you were brought up and all these things. So there's certain guys that feel to honestly portray an experience, they have to live it themselves. And I think that is true to a certain extent. I want to always get a taste of, if I can do a boot camp for Thank You for Your Service, or I can go to, Bethesda hospitals, or I can go to, if I can meet the guys and, sit with them, that's very helpful to me. And then there's other times maybe you're not afforded that, and so you just have to imagine what it'd be like. So whatever gets you there. For me personally, if I was playing, dude, if we're filming Whiplash and in between after cut, JK is still on my ass and yelling at me and this and that, I would be like, dude,
because that creates real tension between the two.
It's fine, but honestly, there's so much tension in the scenes that you also need, on cut, JK, we would always be, it was pretty light.
Really?
It was a very light. I mean, the scene work's intense, but in between takes, we're cracking jokes.
Yeah.
Usually talking baseball.
Really? That's fucking crazy.
Sorry to
disappoint me. I'm imagining him just smacking the shit out of you once they see cut, and he's just like, "Fuck you, man," and then the next scene you're still mad.
No, when he slaps me, actually, and I think when I watch the movie, I think when he slaps me, you can almost see a slight smile.
Really?
Because it was just absurd. We were doing a bunch of fake slaps and it wasn't working, and the director asked JK, he's like, "Dude, you cool getting slapped?" I was like, "Yeah, you just want to get the shot."
You cool getting slapped, bro?
Yeah, so he.
I'm fucking cool getting slapped.
Yeah, I'm fine, man. Just as long as I'm not in a F-18 right now, I'm good.
That's fucking crazy, by the way.
Yeah.
Did you puke?
I never puked. Which I think some guys are just kind of born with a tolerance for it.
You were born to take a lot of G's.
I can take a lot of G's, but also I partied a lot growing up.
Yeah.
So, I got one, things are spinning this and that. I'm like, I'm good.
So a bong hit in an F-18, it's the same
No, but
thing.
it is no joke. I mean, we were at the point where, because there's no green screen. So we were at the point where, these Top Gun pilots, basically the Navy was pushing them. And obviously everything they're doing, they felt comfortable doing. Right. But it was to the point where I would basically just be in the back seat, and these guys would be out there going as aggressive and as hard as they can, because this movie is representing our naval aviators to the entire world, and these guys are representing, their own.
Is it really hard to make a sequel? I mean, is that the hardest thing to do as far as because there's so much buildup? The pressure seems to mount. A series is.
Yeah, no, and I think that's the benefit of working with Tom.
Mr. Tom Cruise!
He's such an asset to any film that he's working on, because he's working harder on your part than you are.
Right.
As far as the writing of it goes, the story, the conflict, all these things, Tom is relentless at how much time he spends making sure. He's always thinking about the audience.
Right.
And so the way I'm just trying to ease people's probably fears of us making a sequel to Top Gun 30 some odd years later is Tom knows the expectations. Tom has no real reason. He does not need to make a sequel to Top Gun. That movie's iconic. He's got all the Mission movies. I mean, Tom is still at the very top of his game. He doesn't need that.
He doesn't need the
And
money.
he doesn't need the money. He doesn't need that in any way. So for him to make this sequel, he knew that the timing was right and the script was right and that we were going to exceed people's expectations.
Right. Well, good. That's a good sell. I believe you.
Tom, I mean,
and I will see it.
If you're going to bet on, if I would bet on anybody in this business to hitch my wagon to, it'd be Tom Cruise.
Listen to the full podcast on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, and other podcast streaming platforms. Wherever you want to get the podcast, you can get the podcast. Pretty simple. New episodes every Monday, Wednesday, and Friday. Don't forget to like and subscribe for more content. Podcasts get pretty wild. This is real tame.